Welcome back to Pokemon Episode Summaries. Today, I'll be doing the finale of Season 2, The Friendly Revival, Episode 118. The episode begins right at the end of last episode's cliffhanger, where Ash and Gary were glaring at each other, preparing for their battle. It was time for the battle to begin, as Gary announced that it would only be a one-on-one battle, with Ash accepting, and Brock, Misty, Tracy, and Oak watching. Ash sent out his Pikachu as his first Pokemon, with Gary sending out an Eevee. And even though it was an Eevee and not evolved, that didn't mean that it wasn't extremely strong. Brock noticed this due to its extremely fresh coat and its bright eyes. Tracy agrees with Brock's assumption, stating that it was probably ready to evolve. Whoa, so Brock actually knows something and you're just like, yeah, it's time to evolve. Man, I'm so glad Brock's back, bro. As Brock and Tracy were making their observations, Ash and Gary had begun to get restless, just waiting for the battle to begin, and of course, had started to argue a little bit while they were bored waiting, with Gary not being able to help himself, and Ash not being able to help himself but respond to Gary's taunts. Brock was sick of the arguing, so he quickly stepped up to the plate as the match's referee, and it began with Pikachu using Quick Attack, but Eevee blocking it by using a Reflect. Pikachu is able to break through the Reflect barrier, but even while doing this, the Eevee takes almost no damage from the attack, which amazes Misty and Tracy, stating that it must have been a really high level. Yeah, we get it, the Eevee's highly trained, okay, whose side are you on? Pikachu then goes in for a Thunderbolt attack, but Gary counters by using a Double Team, which creates a whole bunch of copies of Eevee, leading Pikachu to just use Thunderbolt on every single one of them. He couldn't seem to find the right Eevee though, so Ash told him to give up the effort and try something different, but he couldn't think of what to do before the real Eevee attacked him with a takedown attack. So Ash simply had Pikachu run away by using Agility, and resorted to having it use Thunderbolt, but Gary countered by having the Eevee use Skull Bash. This Skull Bash intercepts Pikachu before it can get off the Thunderbolt, and then retreats back to Gary, as Pikachu was now knocked down, severely injured. It tried its best to get back up, but it couldn't, meaning that Brock proclaimed Gary as the winner of the battle. Ash had lost. Damn, I guess Gary really was stronger than Ash then, huh? Because if he could beat his ace, which is Pikachu, I'm sure he could beat any of his other Pokemon. And I mean, I guess this also means he was stronger than a goddamn Dragonite. Anyways, Ash runs over to Pikachu to make sure it was okay after the beating it took, and congratulates him regardless of the loss, as Gary does the same to his Eevee, although actually praising it for winning. Oak then praises Gary for winning, stating how he's gotten a lot better since the Indigo League. Gary remarks, though, that he still had a long way to go, and he knew that, and he tells Ash that he actually did quite well. Maybe Gary had a bit of a change of heart after all. It's like he kind of switches off and on from being a dick to being not too bad. That's probably why Ash still responded bitterly to him, despite him being nice, claiming that he would beat him next time no matter what, as Gary made his exit to an unknown location. Following the battle, Ash was unfortunately back to his sulking ways, even though his loss against Richie should have showed him that you shouldn't sulk after a loss, but, I mean, it was against Gary, so I guess I can understand it. Anyways, as he sulked, he was watching his Tauros run by, when suddenly, Misty came up to him, and asked him if he wanted to know where Gary was. Ash immediately became a little intrigued by this, although he tried to brush it off as though he didn't care, as to not want to seem interested in Gary, but Misty told him anyways, that Gary had left on a new journey. Ash curiously jumps up and asks Misty where Gary was going, but Misty revealed that she didn't know, leading Ash to go ask Oak. Speaking of Oak, he was currently in his laboratory analyzing the GS ball with Tracy and Brock, although he wasn't able to get any information from it, as his scanners weren't able to detect it whatsoever, indicating that there was definitely something fucking weird about this thing. Just then, Ash rushes into the lab and proceeds to question Oak on where Gary was going, but all Oak responds is that, yes, Gary was in fact going on a journey with the intention to get stronger, and that's why he's been training so hard lately, because he was preparing for the journey. But before he can explain where he was going, Misty then butts in and questions how the research on the GS ball was going. Tracy replies that it was not going well whatsoever, which leads Misty to wonder how two such esteemed professors like Oak and Ivy both couldn't get any information out of the ball. Tracy warns Misty not to mention Ivy's name, as if on cue, Brock then goes into his fetal position yet again. With Tracy and Misty preoccupied with Brock, Ash takes the opportunity to return the questioning back to where the fuck Gary was going, with Oak finally revealing that Gary was going to the Johto region, which was a region nearby Kanto located out to the west that had its own league, and that's the reason why Gary was going. He wanted to participate in the Johto League that supposedly had way stronger trainers than the Indigo League. He then also stated how 8 gym badges were required to enter the league, just like back in Kanto. Oak further states that Gary told him that he really wanted to prove himself after his loss in the Indigo League, so he figured battling even stronger trainers and beating every single one would be his way of doing that. Upon hearing about the Johto League, Ash rushes outside the lab in excitement, with Misty, Brock, and Tracy following him. He claims that if anyone needed to battle with stronger trainers, it was him, if he wanted to become a Pokemon Master, so he decided that he was going to go to Johto and take on the Johto League as well. If Gary could do it, he could do it too. Pikachu cries out in agreement, as Ash shouts out into the wind that he knew he could win the Johto League if he tried. Misty agrees that it would be a great idea for Ash to challenge the Johto League, so he had something interesting to do, since he'd gotten a bit lazy since he won the Orange League. Ash obviously rebuttals this, because how the fuck would Misty think this? They've literally had non-stop encounters with Pokemon or Team Rocket since Ash won the Orange League. Misty argued back, though, that Ash's laziness could have been the reason why he lost his battle against Gary. The mere mention of his loss against Gary causes Ash to fly off the handle a little bit, and he proceeds to get really angry and argue with Misty, but thankfully, Tracy and Brock then step in, with Tracy unable to really do anything, but Brock, on the other hand, managing to stop the argument by revealing that he was going to come back to the group, officially. He stated his reasoning being that if Ash and Misty were just going to argue all the time without him, then they wouldn't get anywhere, and with him around, he could make sure that they trained right, ate right, and fought right, just like they used to when he was around. Although, I would argue that they actually did better without him. I mean, Ash won a league. But that's not to say I don't prefer Brock over Tracy, though. Tracy can go take a hike. Ash and Misty happily welcome Brock back to the group, as Brock points what he thinks is west, stating that they were going to make their way to Johto immediately. However, Misty corrects him that Brock was actually pointing the wrong way, which was pretty embarrassing since Brock was usually the one with the map. Brock simply laughs off his mistake and points the other way, stating that whatever way they were heading for action, because they were the goddamn protagonists. Okay, maybe not that last little part. Ash and Brock throw their arms in the air in excitement to be back together and in excitement to be going to a whole new fucking region. I'm excited too. It means we finally get some new Pokemon. Togepi was excited as well, as it waved its arms. However, Misty was a little terrified, as she was fearing that it meant that they would get lost in the forest, just like how they had before, since Ash and Brock clearly both had no sense of direction if they were able to mix up which way west was. She stated that she would make her own map. Just then, before Ash and the gang could set off to the Johto region, Oak then handed Ash back the GS ball, explaining that he needed him to take it on yet another journey, even though he had just got it back. Oak then led Ash back into the lab, where he showed him a picture of an old man named Kurt on his computer. This was the man that he wanted Ash to deliver the GS ball to now. He was named Kurt, a famous Pokeball expert who invented Pokeballs, living in Azalea Town in the Johto region. Due to him being a Pokeball inventor, Oak heavily suspected that Kurt would know something about what was inside the GS ball. Misty then told Oak, though, that if they went to Azalea Town, they would likely miss the Johto League, as it would probably take them so long to get there. Oak rests her worries, though, by stating that Azalea Town was past Newbark Town, which was the town where the Johto League registrations were being held, so Ash could simply go to Newbark Town first, and then go to Azalea Town later. Oak remarked that Ash going to Newbark Town first would be poetic anyways, as it was called Newbark Town because it was known as the town where new beginnings blow. Just then, a strong breeze blew into the lab, cracking the window open. I guess Pallet Town was a good beginning spot too, and that's why our protagonist was born here. It was fate. With that, Ash and the gang officially decide to accept Oak's request and head to Newbark Town on their way to Azalea Town, with Brock remarking that with him now back in the gang, he would make sure nothing bad would happen to Ash. However, Misty rebutted that his protection would likely be useless since he would be too busy staring at girls the whole time, leading Brock to admit that he was definitely more focused on girls, perhaps even more than geography now, and that's why he was suddenly so bad with directions. Meanwhile, back at Ash's house, Ash's mom and Mr. Mime were packing a whole bunch of shit into Ash's backpack, including Ash's underwear, because they had heard from Professor Oak that he was about to go on a brand new journey. Ash and the gang then enter the house to confirm this to her, as Misty excitedly states that the Johto region was going to be full of a whole bunch of new adventures, and Brock assures Ash's mom that Mr. Mime would fill in for his cleaning duties, implying that he now had faith in Mr. Mime after all. However, when Ash's mom then responds by announcing that she was going to make a huge farewell supper for Ash, their rivalry is immediately reignited, as Brock wants to help a lot, but so does Mr. Mime. This causes the two of them to fight over who should do what, and especially over who should go get all the groceries. Brock wins the fight, and he rushes out to go get the groceries, but due to being so preoccupied by Mr. Mime, he forgot the grocery list, so Ash then has to follow him and give him the list, as his mom had ordered, much to his dismay. He was now so sad that he had to go and do some work for the meal, that he wasn't even excited to eat it, unlike all of his friends, who were fucking jumping to eat a meal. It was unusual for Ash not to want a meal, like damn, it seems like every episode he was hungry. Meanwhile, Team Rocket was walking down a nearby road close to Ash's house, still sad over the fact that they just got their asses beat by a Nidoqueen, and they were still showing it too, as they were still walking on canes, severely injured. Just then, though, Meowth spotted Gary coming down the path, and Team Rocket realized that they could have their revenge on him, so they proceed to set up a whole awesome, extravagant stage for them to do their motto on, so they could really rub it in Gary's face when they defeated him. However, they end up setting up their motto stage on the wrong road, as Gary takes a shortcut that they weren't aware of, so he ends up walking right past them before they realize this, so they're unable to do their motto, only doing a little bit of it before realizing that Gary had went the opposite direction. Jesse and James are so depressed at this that they leave behind Meowth, who is still tied up in preparation for their motto. Meowth screams at them to come back, and they eventually do, and come up with a plan to make themselves feel better, which is to steal Ash's Pikachu. Meanwhile, back at Ash's house, Brock had returned with all the groceries, and him and Ash's mother, along with Mr. Mime, had prepared a full-on fucking feast, and they even invited Professor Oak over as well. They were really enjoying the food, and Misty remarked how lucky they were to have Brock back to cook for them, as opposed to him being a slave to Professor Ivy. Of course, the mere mention of Professor Ivy's name gets Brock in his usual fetal position. Thankfully, Oak cuts off Brock's bullshit by revealing a new Pokedex that he had gotten Ash that was specifically designed to have information on all of the abilities, temperaments, and habitats of all the new Pokemon that he'd meet in Johto. Fuck yeah! Ash registers his identity to the Pokedex and is excited to learn about all the new Johto Pokemon. I am too, bro. To add on to the good news, Tracy reveals that he was going to stay in Pallet Town permanently as Professor Oak's new assistant, thanking Ash for inspiring him to do so, as Ash always followed his dreams, and Tracy wanted to do the same. Yay, Tracy's leaving the group now, fuck yeah. Now he can simp for Oak full time. Just then, two reporters, in quotes, they were obviously just Team Rocket in disguise, break into Ash's house and immediately start interviewing him, questioning him on his journey so far, and using the excuse of how Ash had just won the Orange League, but for why they wanted to interview him in the first place. They eventually get distracted by all the delicious food on the table, though, and claim that they were sampling it as part of the interview to see what an Orange League champion ate, although they were really just broke fucks, so they wanted to take the opportunity to eat the food. Brock definitely thought this was weird, but he didn't say anything. Then, Team Rocket focused their attention on Pikachu, claiming that they wanted to get a picture of the Pokemon that had won Ash the Orange League. But then, James suddenly presses a button on the camera that makes a mechanical glove come out of it and grab Pikachu. Team Rocket then run away with Pikachu in their arms, breaking the window of Ash's house to escape, taking off their disguises and revealing themselves as Team Rocket in the process. Mr. Mime jumps out the window as well in an attempt to stop Team Rocket from escaping by putting up a barrier. However, Team Rocket are very soon able to just move this barrier out of the way, as it was only just a little glass screen. After escaping the barrier, Jesse and James then return to the waiting Meowth and present the captured Pikachu to him, which was now captured inside of the camera, which had turned itself into a cage. Don't fucking question it, it's Team Rocket machines, they're weird as fuck. Meowth is extremely pleased with Jesse and James's work, but the smile is wiped off his face as Ash shows up, along with Tracy, Brock, and Misty. Ash immediately orders Pikachu to use Thundershock to escape imprisonment, but Team Rocket reveal that the cage was electric-proof. Damn, they're really doing that a lot more lately, they're learning. Tracy then sends out his Scyther, though, who is able to speedily make his way over to the cage and use Cut on it to break it open. Hey, at least Tracy got one more moment to shine before he goes. But anyways, with Pikachu free, he was able to get off a Thundershock on Team Rocket, and that almost takes him out, but Tracy's actually the one who gets the finishing blow, as he sends out his Meryl and orders it to use Water Gun, which sends Team Rocket blasting off. Damn, he even got to send Team Rocket blasting off. Alright, that's a pretty good send-off. Ash and Tracy then congratulate their Pokemon, and Ash's mom makes sure to congratulate Mr. Mime as well, because it helped too. It put up the barrier, even though the barrier did nothing in the end. Ash and the gang then return to Ash's house, and Ash tries to go to sleep, but he can't. He's too busy thinking about his upcoming Johto journey. He was thinking about how sad he was going to be by leaving Tracy, although he was happy to have Brock back at the same time. And Ash, let me tell you, Brock's infinitely better, bro. Ash then talks to Pikachu about the Johto League and restates his belief that they could actually win this one, with Pikachu crying in agreement. Ash eventually fell asleep, and the next morning, his mom gave him his backpack, filled to his embarrassment with a whole bunch of underwear, and Ash, Brock, and Misty set off towards the Johto region, saying goodbye to Ash's mom, Tracy, Oak, and Mr. Mime, along with all of Tracy's Pokemon. And thus we reach the end of Season 2 and go onwards to Season 3, the beginning of the Johto arc.